He was young. He was handsome like an actor, and he has been one of the fiercest and most brutal serial killer of history. The number one without conscience. He was pure evil. His name was Richard Ramirez. Welcome back, my dear followers, or welcome if it's the first time that you are watching my YouTube channel, My Paranormal and Mystery TV. I want to warn you since now that the videos, the images, the documents I'm going to make you watch are extremely disturbing. They are, as always, real, and remember, extremely disturbing. So watch it only if you are ready to watch extreme real horror. Richard Ramirez was born in El Paso on February the 29th, 1960. And he was raised from a Catholic Christian family. And he also did the altar boy in church. And later he became the fiercest and the most brutal serial killer of history. He stated that he was the emissary of Satan. And when you will watch what he did, it's really impossible not to say that this was really a satanic soul completely devoted to Satan. It arised from 1984 to the end of August 1985 when he got cut. California, especially Los Angeles, but also other cities near. And the media rebaptized him the Night Stalker. He was condemned to death in the gas chamber, but he succeeded in about 2006 to delay his execution. And he died on death row from lymphoma on June the 7th, 2013 from lymphoma. So he has never been executed and he was cremated. He died at a young age. He died at 53 at Marine Health Medical Center in California. He did atrocities like torture, rape, horrific murders. He was a brutal pedophile, and he never expressed regrets for his horrific crimes. And think about that only in 2009 it was discovered that his first victim was May Leung. Thanks to the DNA because it was a cold case. His first victim was Mei Leung. At that time, she was only 9 years old. And on April the 10th, 1984, Mei Leung was in the basement of her apartment building in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. She was with her brother, who was only 8 years old, when Richard Ramirez approached her and convinced her to follow him into the basement. Richard Ramirez brutally raped her, beat her, and stabbed her to death with a switchblade, hanging her partially nude body from a pipe by her blouse. So now, are you ready? Let's watch. It's really, really horrific. Warning! Some images could disturb the sensitivity of the viewers. Richard Ramirez
grew up in a working-class neighborhood of El Paso, Texas, the youngest of 5 siblings. As a child, he was active in the Catholic Church, taking Holy Communion and serving as an altar boy. No one would ever guess that this sweet, shy boy would grow up to become a notorious serial killer, whose rampage would terrorize the entire state of California.
When we found out that Richie was the Night Stalker, it was an end of innocence.
Known as the Night Stalker.
Homes of sleeping victims, Richard's brutal crime spree left a devastating impact.
Richard Ramirez's reign of terror
was driven by his belief that he was Satan's emissary. It was with this evil mindset.
Began in June 1984. Los Angeles was under siege. Death waited in the dark at the hands of a man they called the Night Stalker. After a 14-month reign of terror, he was finally caught. It was only then that his true identity was discovered. His name, Richard Ramirez.
Richard Ramirez's whole trip was to hide in a tree or hide behind a fence and watch his victims at nighttime and wait into the wee hours of the night. And then, while they slept, creep in, like a coward, and kill them.
His killings were so sadistic and brutal that even experienced detectives were shocked.
Well, he took a woman in her 60s and stomped her to death with his foot, leaving an imprint of a shoe on the side of her face. From that to just executing somebody upon walking into a room after he entered a house. He strangled, he used a ligature, he used a tire iron on a young girl, beat her, left her for dead.
Will your anger subside if you had to wipe up your mother's...
Listen what Richard Ramirez himself stated.
Would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. I cannot answer that at this time.
What was Richard's motive?
To kill.
That's it?
To kill. It's as simple as that.
Richard Ramirez was raised in El Paso, Texas, the youngest of 5 children born to hardworking, strict parents. Eddie Milam was Richard's best friend back then and remembers when he began to change into a troublemaker.
I did start seeing something going wrong with Ricky Ramirez. I think what really messed him up was the acid. He would do a lot of acid. The stealing, I noticed the stealing, and then started as a pee-pee and thumb and things like that.
Ramirez's passion for burglary earned him the nicknames of Ricky the Thief and Fingers. But Eddie knew Ramirez had other serious problems when he was fired from a local hotel.
he said he was fired, he was dismissed due to the cause that he had tried to molest two little kids that were going up the elevator.
By 18, Ramirez was a high school dropout drifting around California. He stayed in Skid Row hotels, never seemed to work, but always had the money to buy cocaine. Friends say the Richard Ramirez they knew didn't date and wasn't the type to commit such heinous crimes. But convicted murderer Martin Kipp, who befriended Ramirez in prison, says he heard another side of the night talk.
Richard told me he needed to associate gruesome violence with sex in order to be completely satisfied. He also told me that he had to violently fantasize about his victims before he could go away sexually gratified.
They are desires, whereas if I didn't give in to them, I would be crushed by them. I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world, and in a wicked world, wicked people are born. I'm not going to blame society, my race, or people, or anything. It is up to the individual like myself to keep on knocking on whatever door they want to get into.
Because the victims and the methods of killing were so diverse, many experts felt there was no one Night Stalker. Detectives Carrillo and Salerno disagreed and finally broke the case by matching shoe prints. The subsequent trial turned into one of America's most notorious courtroom dramas, punctuated by continual outbursts from Ramirez. In that trial, Ramirez's fascination with Satanism emerged.
As far as Satan is concerned, I believe that, malevolent being. His description eludes me, but I have felt powers that are evil.
After an 8-month trial, Ramirez was convicted of all 13 murders and given multiple death sentences.
I don't care about myself, really. I don't care about what happens to me. I never did, really.
When his reign of terror at the end of August finally ended up, normal people recognized him after his photos on TVs, on newspapers, and they immobilized him, calling the police. This is a very rare photo of finally the Night Stalker caught and stopped once and for all. Let's start from the beginning.
That day, Jack Vinkow walks up to his mother's apartment. The window's open and the front door is unlocked. Jack proceeds through the front door and saw that the living room had been completely ransacked.
It looked like somebody had gone through and taken property, or at least looking for property.
Jack continues through the apartment to his mother's bedroom. In there, he finds his mother partially covered by a sheet.
Her throat was horribly slashed, almost to the bone.
She was Ginny Vinkow. She was 79. Her body found on June the 28th, 1984. Los Angeles, California.
The 17th of March, 1985, and Gil Carrillo, a young homicide detective with the LA County Sheriff's Department, was called to an incident in the Rosemead district.
Sunday evening, 10:40 at night. Call comes in, very typical. Okay, Gil, you got one dead, one wounded, and I'm just going to work another routine mundane murder.
Carrillo didn't yet know it, but this murder would be anything but routine.
We entered the location on on Village Lane. Dale Okazaki was lying on her back in the kitchen. She had sustained a gunshot wound to the head.
34-year-old Dale Okazaki had been unloading groceries when a man entered her apartment and executed her where she stood.
I can still see her today.
Dale's flatmate, 22-year-old Maria Hernandez, had also been shot at point-blank range, but had survived. She didn't recognize her attacker, and nothing had been taken from the property.
And the same gun was used.
In nearby Monterey Park, 30-year-old law student Se Lian Yu had been driving home when another driver forced her to stop, then shot her twice in the chest at close range.
Almost immediately, we were aware that we had some sort of a series going, not knowing just how big it was going to get or grow.
The nature of the crimes was not typical of a serial killer.
The overwhelming majority of serial sexual murderers kill up close and personal.
On the morning of March the 27th, the bodies of 64-year-old Vincent Zazara and his 44-year-old wife Maxine were discovered in their home in the pleasant suburb of Whittier. The same gun had been used, but behavior at the crime scene was significantly different. Vincent Zazara had been shot as he slept. Maxine had been shot and stabbed repeatedly, and the killer had taken a gruesome souvenir.
The woman's eyes were gouged out, not to be found.
On April the 15th, 2 weeks after the murder and mutilation of the Zazaras, the killer appeared to have struck again. Linda Martinez was called to process the crime scene at the home of William and Lillian Doy, a couple in their mid-60s.
There were casings on the living room floor. Mr. Doy was still in his bed and he had been shot. Mrs. Doy's room was next to the master bedroom. She was an invalid, so she had her own room. She had been sexually assaulted.
William Doy had been quickly dispatched with a gunshot to the head. 63-year-old Lillian had been restrained with thumb cuffs, beaten, terrorized, and raped. But the killer had let her live.
Moravia, Los Angeles County.
6 weeks later, in the leafy city of Monrovia, two sisters, both in their 80s, were discovered in the home they shared. One had been raped. Both had been severely beaten with a hammer. Here again, there was something new.
There was a whole aspect of the occult.
There were some pentagrams, some things written on the wall. There were some markings on the body.
The crimes appeared related, but defied the current theories regarding serial murder.
The press!
Dubbed the mystery killer the Night Stalker. And those who had known him would never have suspected what he was capable of.
He was an ordinary kid, no different than the rest of us.
Who was the Night Stalker?
Richard Ramirez was born in 1960, the last of 5 children to Mexican immigrants, living in the Texan border town of El Paso. Approached his teens, he grew distant to his father and began to look up to his cousin Mike, a Vietnam veteran who boasted of many atrocities while in service. After a petty argument at their apartment, Mike shot his wife in the face, killing her instantly.
So, Mike killed his wife, shooting at her head in front of Richard Ramirez, who was only 13 years old. Richard, instead to get horrified, he got fascinated.
Became interested in hard rock and Satanism. Ramirez dropped out of school and began living on the fringes of society, sometimes sleeping in the local cemetery.
Right from the get-go, Richard stole anything that was loose and anything that he could pry loose.
After the attempted rape of a guest,
in an El Paso hotel, Ramirez moved to California.
He became a cocaine.
Richard became a cocaine and alcohol addict, and he stayed in this hotel. Yes, many of you have recognized the hotel I'm talking about. Hotel Cecil, that now it's considered one of the most haunted hotels of the world.
I came to California. I came here to live. And I came looking for a pot of gold, but I found a pot of iron instead.
He had a job, and people.
Not to know his feelings about what they call the devil's den of cocaine. I love it.
And then ultimately, I think, falls in love with Satanism.
Satan is a stabilizing force in my life. It gives me a reason to be, an excuse to rationalize.
Ramirez lived
taking drugs, using prostitutes, stealing cars, breaking and entering.
By May 1985,
had killed at least 8 times, and his violent home invasions were about to escalate, plunging the people of Los Angeles into panic. In 1985, Los Angeles County was in the grip of a vicious serial killer. Citizens were no longer safe in their homes, as the mysterious killer, christened the Night Stalker, raped, murdered and mutilated in the name of Satan.
In the name of Satan.
The dreadful and indiscriminate crimes caused a wave of fear.
Everybody was scared. Everybody.
And still,
the violent attacks continued. In Burbank, on May the 30th, a 41-year-old woman was raped, while her 12-year-old son was locked, handcuffed in a closet. She was allowed to live. On the 27th of June, the body of a 28-year-old teacher was found in Arcadia. She'd been sodomized and her throat slit. On July the 2nd, again in Arcadia, a 75-year-old woman was found dead. She'd been beaten, her throat cut, and her home ransacked. Detective Gil Carrillo was convinced just one man was at work, but the fact
It was really difficult to catch the Night Stalker because he hadn't a modus operandi like all the other serial killers.
Operation, but there were different weapons used. There were two separate guns that were used throughout these events. There were knives used on a couple of the occasions. There were bludgeons used on a couple of the occasions. These are all differences in the method of operation.
On July
5th, the Night Stalker targeted a quiet suburban street in Sierra Madre. He entered the bedroom of 16-year-old schoolgirl Whitney Bennett.
You talk about a nightmare. Her parents awaken to her crying and coming down the hall. They find her in her bedroom on the floor, covered in blood. The suspect had entered the house, confronted her in bed while she was asleep, and beat her with a tire iron, and tried to strangle her. And left her for dead. 4 feet of sutures ended up in her head, took to close the wound.
Atrocities go on.
The 7th of July was another in a long run of swelteringly hot nights. In the early hours, crime scene investigator Linda Martinez had awoke with a start.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, my friend says someone's calling your name, somebody's yelling for you.
Linda's neighbor was crying out for help.
I went to the back fence and called across the street to the lady calling me and asked her what was wrong. And she told me that she had been robbed and raped and she was handcuffed to her bed. Once I heard her voice, I knew it was him.
So predicament, a lady in her 60s had been sexually assaulted. She was raped and...
Detective Carrillo recognized all the hallmarks of a Night Stalker attack. His suspicions were confirmed by the discovery in a nearby home of the 61-year-old Joyce Nelson, beaten to death with a blunt object. The Night Stalker had struck twice in one night. And he would repeat the trick just 2 weeks later, on the 20th of July, first shooting Max and Layla Needing at their home in Glendale, before moving on to Sun Valley.
We had a couple that lived in a home. The male had been executed in his sleep. The woman had been sexually assaulted. And there was a young boy there that also had been assaulted.
Ramirez had again dispatched the husband as he slept. He had repeatedly beaten, sexually assaulted, and humiliated the mother, demanding that she pray to Satan for her life, and then raped her 8-year-old son.
San Francisco on the 17th
of August, the Night Stalker had shot another couple in their home, leaving a satanic symbol on the wall. A week later, he struck 50 miles south of Los Angeles, shooting the husband and sexually assaulting the wife, forcing her to swear her love for Satan.
And then the mistake of the Night Stalker. A fingerprint recovered
on the rearview mirror of a stolen car that the killer had used. And they made Richard Ramirez off that fingerprint. Killer Richard Ramirez to the press immediately.
When they showed him, I told my husband, "Oh my God, look, that's Richie."
Then finally the twist. He tries to carjack.
Female resident, she screams.
We were actually still asleep We heard a bang, then a scream. We ran out here. We noticed a tall, dark, skinny guy running, and my dad right behind him. We just came running as fast as we can to assist my dad, and the neighbors pretty much caught up to him about here and tackled him right here up against this fence. He was right here, just sitting down right here. He was bleeding because one of the neighbors had hit him with a fence post right over the head. He was perspiring and huffing and puffing and looked very tired and scary. He looked very scary, actually.
People just started coming out with the newspapers
And now I make you see an extreme rare video of the capture of the Night Stalker.
What have you been arrested for? You ever been arrested before?
Danny, where's your car?
Never been arrested before in LA?
Fourth one down.
Sit up. How long ago?
Let's get all these.
What's your name?
Ramirez.
Are there really rare videos? The trial of Richard Ramirez starts.
Ramirez entered the courtroom wearing sunglasses and shackles. He's accused of 43 crimes, including 13 murders and multiple counts of rape, robbery, sodomy, and oral copulation. Outside the courtroom, metal detectors were used to beef up security. Dozens of spectators crowded the hallway, hoping to get a glimpse of the accused serial killer. Ramirez was captured nearly 3.5 years ago by an angry group of citizens in East LA. He was caught trying to steal someone's car. Police say he had terrorized much of Greater Los Angeles by entering homes through unlocked doors or windows. Authorities say he raped, robbed, and killed many of his victims. Most were in the San Gabriel Valley. Following his capture, reports surfaced tying Ramirez to Satanism. He once flashed a pentagram drawn on his hand, and in an earlier court appearance, he shouted, "Hail Satan."
Hail Satan.
Today, nearly 3.5 years later, the trial of Richard Ramirez is finally underway. The long delay was the result of changing lawyers, trying to get the trial moved to another city, and allegations of racism by prospective jurors. It took 6 months just to pick a jury of 12, with 12 alternates. Prosecutor Phil Halpin began a no-nonsense, chronological account of what Ramirez allegedly did. He would not give a public assessment of the case or the evidence, but he did say...
And now, face to face, a rare interview to Richard Ramirez.
Leyva Munoz Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker or the Valley Intruder, was an American killer, serial rapist, kidnapper, and burglar who was convicted in 1989. Richard Ramirez was one of America's most evil serial killers.
The interview with Richard Ramirez.
It would be improper for me to comment on my LA convictions and on my pending case here in San Francisco.
Why?
Because of my appeals.
Are you appealing these because you say you're innocent? You didn't kill 13 people?
That is correct.
You didn't kill 13 people.
Again, it would be improper for me to comment in any regard to that question.
You have now entered these murders, but you're right in there now as far as everybody else is concerned.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough, but then again, maybe they don't.
Do you have emotions, Richard?
No comment.
Tell me what kind of emotions you got going through you right now.
I'll tell you what, I gave up on love and happiness a long time ago.
Why?
I don't care to explain that. Let the quote stand for itself. People in this day and age are brainwashed and programmed like a computer, being nothing more than puppets. This nation, this country is founded in violence. Violent delights tend to have violent ends. Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, people, and ages, it is a rule. Killing is killing, whether done for duty, profit, or fun. Men murdered themselves into this democracy.
You're good at reading your script, Richard, but you're not much at answering my direct questions. A lot was made that you're a devil worshiper. Do you worship the devil? Have you ever studied Satanism?
There are different sects of Satanism.
Have you studied, just yes or no, have you studied Satanism?
Yes, I have.
Are you a worshiper of the devil?
No comment.
Come on, Richard.
I can tell you a little bit about Satanism.
Well, I'm interested in hearing what you got to say then.
It is undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. It is power without charity. A Satanist admits to being evil.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another. Are we not?
I'm asking you the questions, my friend.
Yes, I am evil. Not 100%, but I am evil. Evil has always existed. The perfect world most people seek shall never come to pass. And it's going to get worse. The great epochs of our life is when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil qualities as being our best qualities.
And here another very rare video. The day in which in court Richard Ramirez was condemned to death. It was November the 7th, 1989.
1989 found that the penalty shall be death. This court having on November 7th, 1989 denied your motion for new trial and application for modification of verdicts and findings imposing the death penalty. It is the order of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty for each of the 19 special circumstances found true. Said penalty be inflicted within the walls of the state prison in San Quentin, California, in the manner prescribed by law and at that time be fixed by this court in the warrant of execution. You are remanded to the care, custody, and control of the Sheriff of Los Angeles County to be by him delivered to the warden of the state penitentiary in San Quentin, California, within 10 days from the date hereof, in the usual course of his duties, for the execution of the sentence on the offenses of murder in the first degree contained in counts 2, 5, 8, 9, 11, 13, 20, 24, 29, 30, 32, and 40 of the information, which you have been found guilty, and the 19 special circumstances having been found to be true. To be held by him pending the final determination of your appeal of this matter, which is automatic, and said sentence to be executed upon the final determination of said appeal, in order to be held by him during said period of time until further order of this court. It is so ordered, and this is signed and done in open court this 7th day of November, 1989. I'll sign the document. Pursuant to sections 1218 of the Penal Code, the court orders that a statement of the commitment and judgment and copy of the transcript of all the testimony given in all phases of the trial, including arguments made by the respective counsel, together with a copy of the clerk's manuscript, shall be transmitted to the governor by mail. At this time, Mr. Ramirez, you have the right to an automatic appeal. That appeal shall be to the state Supreme Court. You shall be provided counsel on that appeal, and at this time the record will reflect that the defendant shall be deemed to have filed a notice of appeal in appropriate persona. Bail on appeal is denied pursuant to sections 1272 of the Penal Code. The defendant is remanded. Please proceed.
If we may have a moment, we'll hear a question. Maybe a first man.
Let's do an open court, Mr. Hernandez. I don't know what questions are allowed.
I think that there's a question one about you're still to be continued as the attorney of records on appeal. And
Mr. Hernandez, you're retained. I don't know what the terms of your retention are. Mr. Clark is a trial counsel, and his duties are clearly set out. And thank you, gentlemen, all of you. Good luck to you. By the way, before I adjourn, I want to thank District Attorney's Office, especially Mr. Gilchrist, for the aid and assistance sentencing in this court. Without your documents, I don't think I would have been able to do it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bill.
thank you, for help and of course.
Yeah, but I thought I'd give you some credit.
A shocking curiosity. Champagne and Richard Ramirez
ends up locked up right near Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker. And Richard wants Sean Penn's autograph. So Sean plays it cool. He says, fine, but he's got to write me something first. So Richard sends him a note. Hey, Penn, stay tough and hit them again. Signed Richard Ramirez, 666. He even draws a pentagram and a doodle of the devil on it. Sean sends him this note back. Richard, it's impossible to be incarcerated and not feel a certain kinship with your fellow inmates. Well, Richard, I've done the impossible. I feel absolutely no kinship with you. And I hope gas descends upon you before sanity does. It would be a kinder way out. Not exactly the autograph he was hoping.
And now I make you see who the beautiful baby was. His first victim was only 9.
Blocks from 9-year-old Mei Lung and her family. One night, Mei and her 8-year-old brother go down to the basement to look for a lost dollar bill. But somewhere down there, they get separated. About half an hour later, her brother finds her hanging from a pipe. She's been sexually assaulted and stabbed. The case goes cold until 2009. That's when DNA from a handkerchief ties her murder directly to Richard Ramirez, making her his first known victim.
And now watch this. They published this when Richard Ramirez died.
People versus Richard Ramirez. He was found guilty of 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. During sentencing, Ramirez had this to say.
I am beyond your experience. I am beyond good and evil, and show no mercy. I will be avenged.
Fix the penalty, therefore, at death.
Big deal. Death always went with the territories.
On June 7, 2013, at the age of 53, Ramirez died at San Quentin State Prison. For the detective who helped bring Ramirez to justice, it was a day like any other.
They all came down, they all wanted, what do you think? And all I could say is, hey, I didn't pull the switch, it is what it is, and I'm just grateful that I don't have to worry about an appeal.
Now, Carrillo is now retired. His wife, Pearl, says that she is extremely proud of her husband for having played such an important role in solving this case. Now, all of that evidence that we showed you, it was actually going to be tossed out because it's no longer needed. With Richard Ramirez dead, there won't be an appeal. So they were going to get rid of it, but the LA County DA's office decided to go ahead and keep it, and it is very possible that it could end up in some sort of historical museum. Alex, Christine?
Yeah, and he died, of course, due to cancer, not because he was executed by the state. Gina, I'm curious, as a human being, what was it like holding that stuff?
You know, Alex, it was bizarre. I mean, it was surreal to be holding items that were used against victims, and there was just so many things there that you were like, I can't believe I'm actually touching this. But for me, the most disturbing were the photos.